The glow of the monitor bathed CASEOH's face in an unhealthy light, casting eerie shadows across his features. His bloodshot eyes stared blankly at the chat scrolling across the screen, each message blurring into the next. Hours had passed since his last meal, a fact that slammed into him with the force of a runaway train. His stomach growled loudly, a constant reminder of his neglect. He was famished. "Chat," he croaked, his voice raspy from hours of streaming. "I'm starving. I need food." His throat felt dry, each word a struggle. A wave of suggestions flooded the chat, ranging from pizza to sushi, each more tempting than the last. But one idea lodged itself in CASEOH's mind, growing larger, more appealing by the second. Spicy chicken sandwiches. Hundreds of them. The thought consumed him. He could practically taste the crispy chicken, the fiery sauce, the soft bun. His mouth watered at the mere thought. "We're doing it, chat," he declared, a manic grin spreading across his face. The excitement was palpable. "We're getting 500 spicy chicken sandwiches from Wendy's." The decision was made. The chat erupted in a cacophony of cheers and emotes, the energy in the room skyrocketing. Fueled by their encouragement and his own ravenous hunger, CASEOH slammed his fist on the desk, jolting himself out of his chair. The adrenaline surged through him. He was a man possessed. He had a craving to satisfy, a mission to complete, and he would not be denied. Nothing would stand in his way. The fluorescent lights of Wendy's buzzed overhead as CASEOH strode towards the counter, a whirlwind of nervous energy. His steps echoed in the nearly empty restaurant, amplifying his anxiety. He ran a hand through his greasy hair, his eyes darting around the nearly empty restaurant. The silence was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional hum of the kitchen appliances. Behind the counter, a young employee named Josh polished a metal tray with a bored expression. He'd been working the late shift for weeks, and the monotony was starting to wear on him. He glanced up as CASEOH approached, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of the disheveled man. It wasn't often that someone came in looking so frantic. "Welcome to Wendy's, sir. Can I take your order?" Josh asked, his voice laced with practiced politeness. He tried to mask his curiosity with professionalism. CASEOH slammed his hands on the counter, the force of the impact rattling the trays behind Josh. The sudden movement made Josh flinch. 500, he growled, his voice hoarse. 500 spicy chicken sandwiches, now. His demand hung in the air, heavy and urgent. Josh blinked, his eyebrows shooting up in disbelief. 500, sir, he repeated, his voice a mix of confusion and amusement. He had never heard such a request before. "I'm afraid we don't have that many prepped. That's a lot of sandwiches." Josh's voice wavered slightly, unsure of how to handle the situation. CASEOH leaned closer, his face inches from Josh's. "I don't care," he hissed, his breath hot on Josh's face. The intensity in his eyes was unmistakable. "I want 500 spicy chicken sandwiches. I have the money. Make it happen." His tone left no room for negotiation, and Josh knew he had to find a way to fulfill the order. Josh recoiled slightly from CASEOH's intense gaze, feeling a wave of unease wash over him. He had dealt with his fair share of difficult customers before, each one bringing their own unique challenges. But there was something about this man's manic energy that sent a shiver down his spine, making him feel genuinely threatened. "Sir, I understand you're hungry," Josh began, forcing a calm tone into his voice, though his heart was racing. "But I can't just magically produce that many sandwiches. It's simply not possible. Even if we started cooking now, it would take hours to prepare such a large order." "Hours?" CASEOH echoed, his voice rising in pitch, disbelief and anger evident. "Hours? I don't have hours! I need those sandwiches now!" he demanded, his voice booming. His hands balled into fists, his knuckles turning white with the intensity of his grip. The veins in his neck bulged with each strained word, his face contorting with rage. "Sir, please calm down," Josh said, his voice wavering slightly as he took a step back, trying to maintain a safe distance. He glanced nervously towards the back where the kitchen staff worked, oblivious to the escalating tension at the counter, unaware of the brewing storm. "I can offer you a discount on a smaller order, maybe a combo meal," Josh suggested, hoping to defuse the situation. CASEOH's eyes narrowed to slits, his anger intensifying. "A discount?" he spat, his voice dripping with disdain and contempt. "You think you can buy me off with a discount? I demand satisfaction," he roared, his voice echoing through the restaurant. "I demand my 500 spicy chicken sandwiches," he insisted, his face a mask of fury and determination. Section 4. The confrontation. The situation had spiraled out of control. CASEOH, fueled by hunger and a perverse sense of entitlement, had crossed a line. Josh, now genuinely afraid, raised his hands defensively. "Sir, I'm calling the manager," he stammered, his eyes darting towards the red phone mounted on the wall behind him. "Don't you dare!" CASEOH snarled, leaning over the counter, his face contorted in a mask of rage. "Don't you dare try to silence me! I have rights!" He slammed his fist down on the counter once more, this time with enough force to knock over a plastic display of condiments. Packets of ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise scattered across the floor, painting the scene with a grotesque parody of a child's temper tantrum. "You will regret this," CASEOH hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "You will all regret this." And with that, he stormed out of the restaurant, leaving a stunned silence in his wake. Josh stood frozen for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, with trembling hands, he reached for the phone. He had a bad feeling about this, a very bad feeling.